Hello, BookTube. I have a fairly meaty mail haul here, and it's setting off my Steve bookish spider sense like crazy, so I think it's going to be a good one. And unfortunately, it might be the only thing we do today. I realize that I bombarded you with 4 long videos yesterday, but still, a day with only one video feels kind of thin. But unfortunately, this week, all of my deadlines are congregating in one clump right in the middle of the week. Today's going to be tough. Tomorrow might be impossible. We'll see. I would hate to miss Comics Wednesday when it has such a tiny but vocal groundswell of support. But at least we can do this, because I don't like opening the mail without you. I have a... It ends in a box. It also ends in an envelope that's immensely heavy. Could have been in a box. I had an intriguing technological suggestion made in a comment to one of yesterday's videos. I'm blanking now on who made the comment. You'll know, because you'll be in the comments field today. But I mentioned in one of my videos yesterday that I have a battered old MacBook. A wonderful old white plastic MacBook. Not the brushed silver, not the chiclet keys, nothing like that. Still works perfectly fine. Completely functional, wonderful machine. And I like the feel and the play of it more than I do either my MacBook Air or my MacBook Pro. And it has a disk drive. But it has a crappy camera. The camera in it is terrible. I Photoshop, Photo Booth, the thing that I use here, is there, and, it does pop up, and I'm sure it would have looked just fine back, 15 years ago, but it doesn't look fine now, even by my relatively pedestrian standards. And somebody in the comments field yesterday suggested, well, why don't you get a webcam and mount it on the top of your old MacBook, the best of both worlds. You get higher quality videos, and you don't have to use any other machine. And I've been thinking about it ever since, because webcams are not that expensive. The thing that's bothered me isn't so much the expense of this stuff as that it would be wasted money, because it would all require more tech savvy than I have. So now my question is, should I do it? Should I get a webcam? And if so, how do they even work? So on my other MacBook, I wish I had it here so I could show it to you. I would mount the webcam on top of the laptop, and then it would record videos, but where would the videos go? They obviously don't live in the webcam. How would I communicate the videos to my desktop so that I could then get them onto YouTube? Is it complicated? Does the webcam require software, for instance? Or will it just transmit the video? Once a video is on my desktop, I pretty much know what to do. But it's got me thinking. It's got me thinking. But anyway, let's get on to the books here. If any of you if any of you 90s kids have any tech wisdom that you want to spout about webcams, I'd love to hear it. Apparently, Logitech, a company called Logitech, seems to be far and away dominant in the industry of webcams. Just far and away. All the review videos that I were watching, they didn't end up doing me any good. The reviewers assumed that I knew the basics, and I don't. And they didn't trouble to explain the basics, but everybody was talking about this company, so maybe that's the way to go? I don't know. Oh, okay, good. Good. This is actually good. This comes out at the end of July. You've already seen it on this channel a couple of times. I just mentioned it in a Monday report. This is The Mir Wife by Maria Headley, and it is a contemporary retelling of Beowulf. And I read the advance copy that I had this weekend, and it was good. It was smart, but it didn't do that thing. It didn't trigger that, or not trigger, that's a bad word in the 21st century. It didn't have that particular spark of electricity that I wait for in fiction. And sometimes, it's rare, but sometimes a book has that spark and I miss it on my first time through. So, I will give this another, now that I have the finished copy, I'll give it another try. That's good. That's very good. Glad to have that. Let's see here. Okay, this is unknown to me. This is from Minotaur Books. They're a fantastic publisher of murder mysteries. This is Carol Potenza. This is Hearts of the Missing, which comes out in December. It was on the very last month of the year. Wow. Okay, so this author won the 2017 Tony Hillerman Prize. And It is a... I don't understand. Oh, okay, well, all right. What's going on here, then? I guess this book won the 2017 Tony Hillerman Prize. This is the author's debut. But how could it have won the prize if it's just appearing in December? This is the mesmerizing debut from 2017 Tony Hillerman Prize recipient Carol Potenza. Or maybe the Tony Hillerman Prize was awarded for a short story? Anyway, when a young woman linked to a list of missing Fire Sky tribal members commits suicide, Pueblo Police Sergeant Nikki Matthews is assigned to the case. As the investigation unfolds, she uncovers a threat that strikes at the very heart of what it means to be a Fire Sky native. Victims chosen and murdered because of their genetic makeup. But these deaths are not just about a life taken. In a vengeful twist, the killer ensures the spirits of those targeted will wander forever, lost to their family, their people with a capital P, and their ancestors. When those closest to Nikki are put in jeopardy, she must be willing to sacrifice everything, her career, her life, even her soul, to save the people she is sworn to protect. And the author is an assistant professor of chemistry and biochemistry at New Mexico State University. Isn't that awesome? She writes murder mysteries, and she's a science professor. Okay. All right, well, so we have Hearts of the Missing. I myself, when I'm reading this in December, will be perfectly satisfied with the fact that someone is killing people. I'm not going to worry much that this someone is also allegedly depriving their souls of a comfortable afterlife. I think killing someone's plenty bad enough. And I would think that a professor of biochemistry would think the same, since the good professor has never in her career, nor in any of the written literature, nor ever anywhere in her future, detected even the slightest possible indication that there is anything like a soul. but maybe it sounds like the Tony Hillerman Prize is well awarded, because it sounds like this is going to have a lot to do with American Indians and their faith culture. Let's see what is next. Oh my. Oh boy. Okay, these books are interesting, but they are trying to get Steve to rant at you. And then you neither have the inclination nor do I have the time. This comes out in October, and this is by Russell Fielding, and it is called The Wake of the Whale, Hunter Societies in the Caribbean and North Atlantic. How much do you want to make a bet that this pub sheet is going to annoy me? The author has spent over a decade documenting the hunting of pilot whales for human consumption. Having once thrived across the Atlantic, whaling operations have now largely ceased in all but a few pockets of the ocean. Not true. And the practice understandably elicits much controversy and depth of feeling. Yet for the inhabitants of both St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the Faroe Islands, small-scale whaling remains a staple of the local economy, a way of life backed by centuries of tradition. So what? So what? Embedded among these two, what if hunting of brown-skinned people had been a tradition in their culture for hundreds and hundreds of years? So what if it's a cultural tradition? So what? The people being hunted and butchered have a culture. They have a language. They're as smart as humans. Anyway, embedded among these two artisanal whaling communities. Artisanal whaling. Okay. Artisanal whaling. So in the New York City police criminal docket, is there any special treatment for artisanal wife beaters? You know, he didn't just give her a haymaker across the face. He was a pugilist about it. It was a sweet science about it. Surely we will treat him better. There's no such thing as artisanal whaling. The whale is dead either way, in agony. These communities are separated by thousands of miles of ocean. The author has conducted years of award-winning fieldwork, detailed the local conservation strategies developed organically over the generations by each. He outlines the methods that have worked to effectively maintain a system of sustainable resource despite the pressures of an ever-increasing human population. What insights might be gained from the successes and failures of these distinct approaches in two vastly different areas? Can these strategies help each community navigate the new realities wrought by mercury contamination, global pollutants, and rapid environmental change? And also the fact that they're killing people who are every bit as smart and sensitive and emotional and capable of feeling pain as they themselves are. You might want to add that to the list along with mercury poisoning. They aren't resources. They aren't resources. Anyway, I've got time. This comes out in early October. I will probably wait until I get a finished copy to read it, just because I don't want to ruin my weekend. I don't want to ruin. It is clear that the author and I are only marginally going to see on the same wavelength, and that how did it go? Hunter societies won't see on the same wavelength at all. If your society is based on systematic brutality and cruelty, then your society is evil and should change. And if you don't want to change it, you should be forced to change it before the subjects of your wanton cruelty are extirpated from the face of the planet. What are you going to say then? Oh yeah, here's a branch of cetacean that we didn't know much about them. They seemed like complex and very complicated creatures, but they died out. And little Billy says, well, why did they die out? Environmental catastrophe? No, we let the natives of the Faroe Islands hunt them to extinction. Let's move on. These are interesting books, but so far, I'm not hitting what I expected. So far, the Steve Spider-Sense is not hitting its sweetmeats. Oh, okay. Oh, great. All right. This is by Andrew Del Blanco. This is The War Before the War. Fugitive Slaves, and the struggle for America's soul from the Revolution to the Civil War. It's a subject that a lot of Americans don't know anything about. It always just makes me smirk uncomfortably, irritably, when some Americans say that the Civil War was not fought about slavery. Slavery, immensely complicated, tendrils reaching everywhere, was the subject that the Civil War was about. It was always going to be. Long before the Constitutional Convention, everybody in America knew that. Okay, so what have we got here? It's Andrew Del Blanco. It is impossible to read the story of fugitive slaves without hearing echoes of our own time. In 1850, half the country found its current course morally bankrupt, while the other half cried law and order. Sanctuary cities were established. Okay, all right. Okay, let's skip a little. This has already been the mail has only barely started. It's already been ranty. You get me started on the current U.S. president, and we'll never be here. We'll never finish. Let's see if we can skip past the sanctuary cities and detainment centers and whatnot. For decades after its founding, America was really two nations, one slave, one free. That's entirely true. There were many reasons why this nation ultimately broke apart, but the fact that enslaved black people repeatedly risked their lives to flee their masters in the South in search of freedom in the North proved that the United States was a lie. With America on the verge of collapse, Congress reached what was hoped was a solution, the notorious Compromise of 1850. Which required that fugitive slaves be returned to their masters. The Fugitive Slave Act, intended to preserve the Union, instead set the nation on a path to civil war. And you can see why, right? Because the Fugitive Slave Act, by compelling... Do we have a release date on this thing? This comes out in early November. The Fugitive Slave Act, by compelling fugitive slaves to be returned to their masters, makes even free states complicit in the industry of slavery. Because if you're in Pennsylvania and you're running your dry goods store and all of a sudden you go out into the back alley to throw away some trash and there's a slave there, there's a black man there or a black woman, you can't do nothing. According to the law, you have to act to return that person to slavery, even if it goes against everything you believe. So of course it made things worse. But I don't know that I've read a full narrative history of fugitive slaves in America, especially for such a long period. This is fascinating. I wonder how much press this will get. I wonder how much coverage it will get in November. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. Now we're in Steve territory. A gigantic biography. In this case, not exactly a bullseye because it's a gigantic biography of someone who's still alive And I tend to shy away from those, but in this case, I'll make an exception. This is going to get reviewed everywhere. Do we have a pub sheet? No. This is by Jane Sharon DeHart, and it is a gigantic biography of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. There she is in the 1920s. And this is... Okay, well, this doesn't have a pub sheet, but you all know what it's about. This is... she's become a counterculture hero, and this is the first major biography. Okay. You know, actually, now that I think about it, that might be our author. And not a very young Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Because anyway, this comes out in late October. And it's just going to be the whole thing. I as you've seen on this channel in other videos, I love Supreme Court biographies. I really do. I like Supreme Court histories, but I really like biographies of Supreme Court justices. They're always more fascinating than the full two-court biography or histories. And this one, this is going to get reviewed everywhere. Good. I don't know if I'll do it. I would like to, but we shall see. The season where it comes out is crowded with big fat biographies, and I don't know that I can do them all. We'll see. But right now we're at the end here. This is the paper package that's immensely heavy. I don't know what this could be. It could be more than one book. That would be sort of anticlimactic. No, it's one book. It could be this big. Oh, I bet I know. Oh, I bet I know. This comes out in early October, and it's enormous. It's 1,136 pages long. It is the big book of female detectives. I don't have a cover to show you because it's just, this is the advanced copy, but it's immense. It's immense. It's the latest Black Lizard thing, edited by the great Otto Penzler. Wow. Okay. All right. This is enormous. And I don't know if you'll be able to make this out in the poor lighting, but in addition to being 1,136 pages long, it's double columned. So it's much longer. Oh, man. Okay. All right. That is what it's going to look like. There seemed to be one vital volume missing from Otto Penzler's iconic Big Book series. I don't know how many of them you have, but if you see any of the Otto Penzler Black Lizard Big Book series, snap them up. They're incredible. Even the Big Book of Pulp writing, which is, ironically enough, 1,000-page book of bad writing. And even that is good. An anthology celebrating the female detective is the only thing that they're saying has been missing, who is inevitably overshadowed by the titans of the genre, Sherlock Holmes, Sam Spade, and Philip Marlowe, to name a few. Come now, come now, come now. I know I'm going to love this book. I know I love a lot of these characters, but let's not say that female detectives have been overshadowed by male detectives, okay? It's a 3-to-1 ratio at least. But I get the point. So this is going to be a paperback original in early October, and it is the first anthology to gather the most iconic women of detective canon for the past 150 years. The first. Okay, I love this. I know I'm going to love this book. I know that I'm going to write about it somewhere. But this pub sheet is giving me conniptions. It keeps writing checks. Its mouth keeps writing checks that its butt can't cash. There have been many anthologies of female detectives. There's never anyone this big. So we can certainly say that. So what have we got here? It has 74 hand-picked stories and introduces us to the most determined of gumshoe gals, from debutante detectives like Anne Catherine Green's Violet Strange to spinster sleuth like Mary Roberts Reinhardt's Hilda Adams, or the groundbreaking female cops like Baroness Orczy's Lady Molly, or the crime-fighting PI from Sue Grafton, Kinsey Milholm. The anthology also includes stories from Agatha Christie, Carolyn Wells, Edgar Wallace, L.T. Mead, Robert Eustace, Sarah Paretsky, Nevada Barr, Linda Barnes, Laura Lippman, and many more. Penzler, who the Los Angeles Review of Books described as, quote, the star around which the mystery world orbits. I would agree with that. He's incredible and indefatigable. Begins the collection with an introduction providing a fresh take on the classic genre presented here. as well as little-known historical facts about these authors and the characters that they created. That's what he does in these big books. He gives you a really fun introduction, an introduction that does what introductions are supposed to do, which is make you want to read the rest of the book, even if it's this big. And then he gives you also little introductions to each piece to situate you with who the author was, what their highlight and fame was, a few salient details of the biography, and a little bit about the setting of the story. It's just a masterful performance. You can live in an Otto Penzler anthology for days on end. And this is gonna remind me that how few of them I actually have, and I want them all. So maybe a trip online is in order. This volume is an ideal companion for any mystery lover, especially those looking to expand the scope of their knowledge of the detective genre with these often overlooked characters. Some of them are overlooked, I'm sure. This is a moment of reckoning as we reevaluate the way our culture values... Oh, no, okay, all right, no, let's not go any further than that. But it doesn't matter, because this is going to be so much fun. This is going to be so much fun. There is absolutely no reason to haul in Me Too. Hashtag Me Too. There's absolutely no reason to do that in order to sell this book, in order to say this is going to be enormous amounts of fun. Oh boy. Well, no wonder the envelope was so heavy. Okay. All right. And then the last thing here is a box. And then we'll be done for today. I don't know if I'll be able to do anything else. I don't know how well my workflow will go for tonight. Well, this is a thick book too. Okay, these last two. This comes out in late October. It's by Alan Walker, and it is Friedrich Chopin, A Life and Times. This author did a gigantic 3-volume biography of Liszt that is a classic of classical music biography. And now he turns his attention to Chopin. Let's see here. The author begins his monumental new biography with a thought experiment. Somewhere within 50-kilometer radius of his writing desk, Walker asserts, is someone either performing or listening to the music of Chopin. And it's likely true of you too. Somewhere within 30 miles of where you read this letter, a young pianist is perhaps practicing one of Chopin's waltzes, or some aficionado is listening to the preludes and nocturnes through a set of earbuds. In short, Chopin's music is timeless. It continues to resonate with a new generation of musicians and listeners, young and old. And this comes out in October in hardcover. And it's just... this autumn is shaping up to be an absolutely killer season for biographies. And it's been a good year for biographies anyway. But some massive volumes are coming out. Huge things. 1,000-pagers on Frederick Douglass, on the tennis star Arthur Ashe, on Ronald Reagan, on Chopin, on Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and a bunch of others. Charles de Gaulle. And of course, this makes Steve deliriously happy, since it's my favorite kind of biography. Well, it's my favorite kind of writing. Okay, well, great. So let's do the big book of female detectives by the great Otto Penzler. Look at the size of that thing. You'll be reading it all winter long and loving it because he's, in addition to being really good at those little vignette introductions, he's a really good picker of stuff. His anthologies are like Gardner Dozois's science fiction anthologies. They really have the stamp of him on them, even if he has a staff helping him to find these things. They're not to be missed. His big books are not to be missed. The next time you see the big book of Christmas mysteries or the big book of pulp stories or whatever at your local used bookstore, grab it. You'll be really glad you did. And this thing, oh my God. So anyway, then we have Frederick Chopin by Alan Walker, big fat biography. Then Ruth Bader Ginsburg, another big fat biography. Then The War Before the War by Andrew Delbanco. This is about fugitive slaves and culminating in the compromise, the infamous compromise. Then The Wake of the Whale, about indigenous whaling populations and what to do with them. Then Hearts of the Missing, an American Southwest mystery by the sound of it. And The Mir Wife, in a finished copy, a modern-day retelling of Beowulf that didn't really work on me the first time I read it, but I will gladly give it a second try. So there you go. That's our visit for today. So, as usual, let me know in the comments which of these strike you as interesting. And also, those of you who are tech whizzes, feel free to tell me a little about webcams. If I put a webcam on my old MacBook, will it work? Or does a webcam need a new computer to talk to? And does the webcam talk to the computer? And if it does, how does it do that? So I film on the webcam, and then what? Then the video shows up on my computer, or do I... Tell me what you know. Because if a webcam that I can just pop on top of my laptop and use works, if it's simple enough for me to work it, I might give it a try, see what results are. But anyway, one way or another, I might not be back today, but I will certainly be back tomorrow. So I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.